I do have a burden to share with you these verses of the Holy Word. Firstly, I would say I do admire at your great resolution you made to come to the training. Secondly, I tell you I have much concern about you, about your going back. In these few verses, number one, the Apostle Paul says, you know how I was with you. You know how I was with you. We have to remember, to work for the Lord, it doesn't mean too much. The work means a lot. No. Not what we do, not what we work, not what we can accomplish, but what you are. Paul says, you remember how I was with you. What you are means everything. Then the second point here, he tells us he served the Lord as a slave. He served the Lord as a slave with all humility. Two words, slave, humility. When you go back to your place, don't consider yourself as one that you have been trained, especially training Anaheim. I'm a training coming back from Anaheim. Forget about this. Just remember, you are a slave. You're a slave to others. You should be serving others as a slave in all humanity. No pride. I do know what you have heard here and what you have experienced here. Quite a few factors would make you very proud. You may say, I have seen now the economy of God. Many factors I don't need to mention, you know. So when you go back, don't remember all the factors for you to be proud. Just remember well, you go back to be a slave, to serve the Lord by serving so many others in all humility. Paul needed to say this to the elders from Ephesus because the matter of pride devastated nearly all the servants of God. Paul says, I did not shrink from declaring to you all the counsel of God. You have to believe the counsel here should imply God's economy, right? God's purpose, God's intention, as you have heard here. This doesn't mean you need to be humble, not proud, then you just shrink from telling others all these matters concerning God's counsel. It doesn't mean that. Rather, this is your responsibility to go out to tell people. To tell people not only about their salvation, this and that, you have to bear a burden to go out to be a witness of God's economy, of God's purpose, of God's intention. That is the divine counsel. You don't need to try to get an opportunity to speak to a crowd. You don't need to expect this. Just to contact people. In the private contact, you just serve them with some kind of vision of the Lord's counsel. God's economy, God's purpose, God's intention. Right? Then, another thing is this. You have to remember what you are going to serve is the flock of God. That is what we call the body, the flock. It's God's flock. That's not a church of anyone, neither a church of you, right? But the flock. You just serve God by taking care of His flock. God does have a people on this earth for the fulfillment of His economy. And these God considers as His living flock, which needs much, much of the shepherding. You go back, you should bear the burden to shepherd. To shepherd. Don't say, well, I'm not an elder. Well, what Paul told the elder to do is exactly what every normal believer who seeks after the Lord should do. Bear the burden to this. Don't say, I am not a big speaker and the elders do not regard me that much. I don't have much opportunity. If I speak, no one would listen to me. Don't say this. Don't say this. You have seen something in the training. Go back with what you have seen concerning God's economy, counsel, purpose, and intention. Right? Do it in a very humble way. Do it not in a teacher's way. Do it in a learner's way. Isaiah did say he liked to speak as a learner. Not a teacher's tongue, but a learner's tongue. I use your word, a trainee's tongue. Don't go back to speak anything with the trainer's tongue. Sorry. Just with the trainee's tongue. I'm just a trainee. I'm still under training, right? But you have a burden to open up the vision concerning God's eternal economy. I just give you these few points. Thank you.